Of course, my colleague Hasina Gori is standing by for us. This is around the JSC interviewing of justices for the Chief Justice job. Thanks very much, Hasina, for joining us. I hope you can hear me. Just tell us how the proceedings have been going thus far.
Good afternoon, Mlambo. Yes, this morning we've seen the first of the 4 candidates, that's Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga, taking the hot seat, really being the first one that is beginning this process of searching for the next Chief Justice. Just a recap of how we got to today. The process began last September when President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that he will be opening up the nomination process to the public. That then concluded with a panel called the Pillay panel, which then recommended 8 names to the president. He then shortlisted 4, which he referred back to the Judicial Service Commission, who now have the job of interviewing all 4 candidates. The first one being, as I mentioned, the Court Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga. He's been in the hot seat before the tea break this morning. He spent the first half of that process explaining his vision of the Court if he was to be elected to that really pivotal and important role. We do know that the Chief Justice is the person that would be the head of not only the judiciary, but also the most senior judge of the Constitutional Court, someone whose both judicial but also leadership and management skills would also come into play. After the tea break, we saw questions being brought in. We know the JSC panel is made up of judges as well as legal advocates as well as members of parliament. So all 22 candidates will be, or commissioners, will have the chance to ask questions and pose questions to the candidates. Justice Madlanga has been answering questions with regards to his leadership skills. He has only really served 3.5 years, with 3 years and 6 months as a judge, and he then moved back into advocacy, being a senior counsel. Some of his notable cases, including being one of the chief investigative officers at the Marikana Commission. He then answered with regards to that, saying that he has implemented change in all the roles. He's acted in various different courts. At the time when he was appointed judge, when he was 34 years of age, he was one of the youngest judges at that time. So really highlighting those. He also spoke on some of the challenges that the Constitutional Court is facing. We know that the Apex Court has been criticized quite tremendously when it comes to delays in handing down judgment. They've tried to bring down the time it takes, but the turnaround time has still been a problem. He explained the challenges that the Court faces and some of the practical solutions he feels might be able to assist. Just before the break, he was also answering with regards to modernization of the Court or the judiciary as well, which will fall under his portfolio, speaking on while digitalization, moving online and having these various platforms for courts to run online, he takes into cognizance the social differences within the country as well as the limitations. He also says that if he is appointed as the Chief Justice, he will try and ensure that the judiciary is open and more accessible to all South Africans, also those in rural areas. He gave some examples of people that may be staying in outlying areas, may not have access to high courts or have access to the internet as well. He said that some are illiterate, so even having spaces within the court for these online services affects them also and doesn't really serve them. So really answering questions with regard to that. He was also answering questions around some criticism of his judgments. He's been criticized that some of his judgments lacked coherence, as well as that they might be strong-worded or offensive. He says that he felt that all the constitutional judges and the justices were collegial to each other, and that he was not strong-worded. He said he is quite outspoken when it comes to his views, but he always felt it was collegial. So just responding to those, it's been half a day so far of these interview processes, and it's going to continue till at least 5:30 this evening. This is the first of the 4 candidates. Each candidate has been given 1 whole day to respond to comments as well as questions on their suitability for this really important interview process and position that is up at stake here.
Sina, I hope you can hear me. So after these 4 days, that is Tuesday through to Friday, after the proceedings are over, how long will it be before a decision will be taken on who should become Chief Justice?
So we spoke with the JSC spokesperson, Advocate Mlambo, this morning regarding this specific question. And what he explained was that on the Saturday, deliberations will be done. So it's a day set aside for all 22 commissioners to deliberate and write a report which will be then handed to President Cyril Ramaphosa, and he will then have the right and the onus to appoint whoever he sees most suitable following all these interactions and interviews and the questions being posed. When we asked for a timeline specific, he wouldn't really commit to a specific timeline, but he said that since the Chief Justice position has effectively been vacant for almost a year, because as you remember, former Chief Justice Mogoeng took extended leave from early last year, extending right till his retirement in October. So there hasn't really been anyone in that position permanently. So Advocate Mlambo did say that he's sure that the president would act with speed when it comes to appointing someone to this position after the interviews are done. So no real timeline set out, but I'm sure from what we understood it will be done quite speedily after this process is concluded.
Thanks very much, my colleague there, Hasina Gori. The Minister